Rambam. We continue about the temple, the holy temple, which we're learning in the morning about. Now we're learning Klei HaMikdash, the implements, the vessels, and things that have to do with the holy temple. It is impossible for us the sacrifice of a person to be offered without him standing in attendance. Now, the communal offerings are the sacrifices of the entire Jewish people. But it's impossible for the entire Jewish people to stand in the temple courtyard at the time that they're being offered. Therefore, the prophets of the first era ordain that there be a selective upright and the sin-fearing Jews who should serve as the agents of the entire Jewish people to stand and observe the offering of the sacrifices. They were called the men of Maimed. Anshe Maimed in the Hebrew word. They were divided into 24 ma'amodos, equaling the number of the watches of the priests and the Levites. And we learned about that, right? There were 24 watches, and each week, right, the Kohanim, priests, and the Levites, they would have their week that began Shabbos, actually, interesting, Shabbos day, and finished the following Shabbos day, right? That was their watch. And now you have also Anshe Maimed, the men of the Maimed, that they were representing the entire Jewish people, right? Dividing the 24 equally number. Over each of the watches was one who was appointed as supervisor of them all. He was called the head of the Maimed, Reish HaMaimed. Each week, the members of the Maimed of that week would gather together. Those living in Jerusalem or close to it would enter the temple with the priestly and Levitical watch of that week. When the week of their Maimed arrived, those members of the Maimed who lived in distant places would gather in the synagogues of their locale. Okay. What would those who gather together both in Jerusalem and the synagogues do? They would fast. So, right, interesting. What would they? They fasted on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of their week. Look at the privilege they got. They got the privilege to fast.
Amen.
By the way, it's not Monday, so we could drink now.
Amen. L'chaim.
Right. They would not fast on Friday out of respect for the Shabbos, and not on Sunday, so that they would not make a transition from the pleasure of the Shabbos to a fast. Right? They felt it.
In every shul or just in the temple?
No, those who were part of that group, that Maimed, the men of that group, of that Maimed, right?
In the temple.
No, they gathered either in Jerusalem or in their synagogues in their locale.
In other words, here.
Well, no, in Israel, not in Montreal, but in Israel. Okay. So in Tzfat they would, in Tiberias, huh?
So you don't have to fast.
No, we don't have the temple. Tomorrow we'll have the temple. So, and I'm a Levite anyway, so I wouldn't be part of that. Right, that you wouldn't be.
Something to look forward to.
Exactly. On every day of the week, there was their Maimed. They would recite 4 prayer services: the morning service, the afternoon, and Nila service, another service between the morning and the service in the afternoon, which is additional and unique for them. Right, so they had this extra prayer.
Musaf?
No, not Musaf. Musaf is no.
I'm just reading the footnote.
Closes onto the fast only to increase supplication. It's called Ne'ilah, as if the gates of heaven are being closed, just like we have Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur, right? So they had a special service. And the afternoon and the additional and service, which was additional and unique for them. In the Maimed, the Kohen blessed the people 3 times in the morning service, the additional service, and the Ne'ilah service. Now it's called an additional service. 1 second. He יסיר להם.
Prosecuted.
המוסיף תפילה אחרת בין שחס מנחה והיא יסיר להם. Okay. Right. Okay. The additional is the Ne'ilah service, right? They would have 3 men read from the Torah twice a day in the morning service. In the second service that they would add. In the afternoon service, they would not read the Torah. So by what we call the Ne'ilah service, right?
Sober.
Right. Instead, they would recite the passage of the heart by heart, as one recites the Shema. They would not gather for the afternoon service on Friday, for they were busy with the preparations for Shabbos.
Read the Shema by heart.
Today we don't because we have books so we can read from. Back this is before there were books, right? So there were Torah scrolls. There were scrolls, but not books.
We have access to it.
Right. So the prayers were by heart. That's why they had the repetition, because people didn't know. Right?
Wow.
They're gathering together for each of these prayers of these 4 services, and they're standing in prayer, supplication, and petition of the reading of the Torah is called Maimed. What would they read from the Torah? The narrative of creation. On the first day, they would read in the beginning, let there be a firmament. On the second day, let there be a firmament, and let the waters be gathered. On the third day, let the waters be gathered, and let the luminaries. On the 4th day, let there luminaries. It's like you got from that day and the next day in each one, right? And the waters teem on the 5th day, and let the waters teem, and let them produce on the 6th day, and the earth produce, and the heavens and the earth were completed, right? And that was on the 5th day, right? They finished that. They finished what was on the 6th day. A large passage would be recited by 2 men, a small passage by 1. The 2 passages that were read in the morning would read during the second service from a scroll that would then be read again during the afternoon service by heart. Huh. Not exactly clear what that means, to be quite frank. 3 aliyahs were given out to each for each reading. The passage was large. It would contain 8 verses. 2 aliyahs were given in it, and the 3rd aliyah was given to a second passage that accompanied it. Okay. And that's okay. I thought that's what I meant, but now it's clear. Okay. During the 8 days of Hanukkah, the men of the Maimed would not carry out Maimed in the morning service on any day that there was a Musaf service. So they wouldn't do it at Hanukkah in the morning. Read from the Torah or recite the readings by heart. The morning service, since they would recite Hallel. Because on Hanukkah you recite Hallel. Musaf is not recited on Hanukkah. Right. Okay, and on any other day there was Musaf sacrifice. There was no Maimed during the second service, nor in the afternoon service, only during the morning and the Ne'ilah services. Only during the morning and the Ne'ilah service, on the day that there was no sacrifice of wood, there was not Maimed during the Ne'ilah service, only during the morning and the second and the afternoon services. Okay. Well, with the sacrifice of wood, certain families had a fixed time on which they would go out to the forest and bring wood for the arrangements of the altar. Right? Altar had to have wood in order to burn sacrifices, and families had a fixed time that they would go and bring that wood as a gift. On the day designated to the family to bring this, their sacrifices, they would bring voluntary burnt offerings. This was called the sacrifice of the wood. It was like the festival of these families that they were forbidden to do eulogies, deliver fasts, and perform work on that day. This was a custom. Wow, interesting, because yesterday, the 20th of Av, if I recall correctly, was the final day that you could bring wood as a gift offering to the altar, because from then on, it gets more wormy, the wood. Wow. Well, what a divine providence. Okay. Even a private individual who gave wood or logs for the arrangement of the altar is forbidden to have eulogies delivered, fast, or perform their work on that day. This was a custom. The men of the Maimon are forbidden. Remember, these men, what happened there? Well, what's important about these people, right? They were representing the Jewish people by the communal sacrifices. And in order to represent them, they didn't have to go to Jerusalem, to the Holy Temple, to do that. They did it in their hometowns. They did it in Jerusalem, wherever they lived, and they gathered together. Not exactly clear, because it sounds like you would have to have a minyan of just them. And there are 24 of them. So, you know what? What's that? I'm interested to note that, it would comprise many people. So let's say there were, 240 people in this village, 240 men in this village. So they would be 10 of them for each Maimed, because there were 24 watches, right? So it'd be 10 for each, and that way they had a minyan, because you need a quorum, you need the minyan. So that's what it sounds to me, that what must have happened. The men of the Maimed are forbidden to have their haircut or to launder their clothes throughout the week. They serve in the temple, or not in the temple, but for the temple, right? On Thursday, they were permitted to, in honor of Shabbos. Why they're forbidden to have their haircut and launder their clothes, so they would not enter the Maimed while they were unkept, and said that they would have to their haircut and launder their clothes beforehand. Now they come prepared, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stop here. Amazing. We'll see you later, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you, Rabbi.